Society in the Vedic period. In this module, you will learn about the society in the Vedic period. The Vedic period refers to the age when the Vedas were being composed by the Aryans, who had migrated to the Indian subcontinent from Central Asia. The Vedic age ranges roughly from about mid-2nd to mid-1st millennium BC. The information about the Vedic age is largely obtained from the four Vedas, Rig Veda, Sam Veda, Yajur Veda and Atharva Veda, along with other allied Vedic literature. These literary works provide immense information about the political, social, economic, religious and cultural life of the people of the Vedic period. The Vedic age is divided into two: the early Vedic period from BC 1500 to BC 1000 and the later Vedic period from BC 1000 to BC 600. There is a difference in the life of the people during these two stages. Let us look at the social conditions prevalent during the Vedic age in detail. The Rig Veda, the most archaic of the four Vedas, provides a vivid insight into the society of the early Vedic period. In the early Vedic period, or the Rig Veda times, the Aryan families lived in villages. Society in the early Vedic period was basically semi-nomadic in nature. The patriarchal system was followed, with the oldest male member being the head of the family, or the Grihapati, or Kulpati. The son of the Grihapati took over his father's responsibilities after his father's death. Position of women. Women were given due respect in the early Vedic age. Daughters at the age of 16 or 17 were allowed to choose their husbands. Widow remarriage was permitted and child marriage did not exist. Women could participate in yajna and perform sacrifices. They participated in public assemblies. There were several women scholars like Lopamudra, Visvavara, Ghosha, Sikata, Nivavari and Apala. However, this situation changed with the transition to the later Vedic period. In the later Vedic period, society became very complex and the status of women declined. Women were no longer allowed to choose their husbands. They were not allowed to participate in yajnas and they did not have the right to property either. Social divisions. In the early Vedic period, there was a basic class division in the society. The early Aryans called the local inhabitants Dasyus and did not mingle with them. Social inequalities were created with the tribal chiefs and priests amassing wealth. The tribal society was divided into three groups: the priests, the warriors and the common people. The fourth group, called Shudras, appeared only towards the end of the Rig Vedic period. However, on the whole, the tribal society was egalitarian in nature. The early Vedic society was characterized by occupational mobility. People could choose and change their jobs. However, with the passage of time, occupations became hereditary, resulting in the formation of occupational classes. The class system that emerged in the early Vedic period developed into the rigid and immobile caste system by the later Vedic period. In the later Rig Vedic period, there were 4 distinct castes: the Brahmins with their priestly duties, the Kshatriyas or the warriors, the Vaishyas or the business class, and the Shudras, the lowest class. In the later Vedic period, this caste system became extremely rigid. The Brahmins began to be considered as gods on earth and the Kshatriyas the rulers. The 3 upper classes qualified for Upnayan or investiture with a sacred thread according to the Vedic mantras. Intercaste marriages were not allowed. The 4 ashrams. In the Vedic period, family traditions influenced a person's life and upbringing. The division of the lifespan of an Aryan into 4 Vedic periods or stages was done in the later Vedic period. The first stage was the Brahmacharya stage, which was the period of education and discipline. The second was the Grihastha stage, referring to marriage and family life. The third stage, Vanaprastha stage, was for an attempt to gain spiritual and philosophical knowledge, and the fourth, Sannyasa stage, meant renunciation. Education. In the Vedic period, students were nurtured at Gurukuls, or the home of the Guru, who was much revered. The Gurukuls were often situated in the outskirts of the city and even in the forests. The students resided at the Gurukul and were expected to learn the Vedas and take care of the surroundings. The aim of this education system was to develop the physical, mental, and the spiritual qualities in the student. The main subjects included the Vedas, Puranas, grammar, mathematics, ethics, logic, and military science. Maitreyi and Gargi were 2 women teachers who were considered to be gifted and were greatly respected. Food, dress, and ornaments. Yava or barley was the staple cereal diet of the Aryans, while rice was consumed only later. Milk and milk products were also consumed. During festivals and ceremonies, soma, an intoxicating drink, was served. The clothing of the Vedic people mainly consisted of an undergarment or the nivi, dhoti, a shirt or the vasa, and a loose overgarment or the adhivasa. Men kept long hair and wore turban. Sadhus often wore deer skins or mrigachhal. Both men and women adorned themselves with jewellery. Entertainment consisted of chariot racing, horse races, dancing, singing, and hunting. The people participated in competitive sports, festivals, and gambling. They played musical instruments such as the drum, flute, mridang, and lute. Let's recall what we have learnt. In the early Vedic period, families lived in villages. The oldest male member of the family or Grihapati was the head of the family. Women enjoyed an esteemed position in the early Vedic period. The early Vedic period, with its nomadic and tribal population, had class distinctions but not caste distinctions. In the later Vedic period, there were distinct castes: Brahmins, priestly class; Kshatriyas, warriors; Vaishyas, the tradesmen; and the lower caste, the Shudras, who served the upper castes. In the later Vedic period, the lifespan of man was divided into 4 ashrams: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. Education was provided at Gurukuls by the revered Guru. Barley, rice, milk products and soma were consumed by the Aryan people. The Aryans wore simple clothes and jewelry. They enjoyed music, competitive sports, festivals and gambling.